Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar today on the landscape characterization and monitoring in the Chesapeake Bay Watershed funding opportunity. Today's session will be recorded and posted on EPA's Region 3 Grants website. I believe that everybody should be able to access the links by clicking on the links within the presentation. You should be able to access them that way. The webinar will be posted, as will this PowerPoint presentation with the links as well, so you can access them afterwards. Live captions can be turned on in the settings. We have turned off all the video and microphones to reserve bandwidth. Questions can be submitted through the chat function or by email to r3_cbpo_grants@epa.gov or by clicking on that link. And then any questions and answers during today's session will also be posted on the website. There is currently a Q&A document posted there now. We will just be updating that one and reposting it to the same place. All right, we are here to talk about the funding opportunity that's been posted for the landscape characterization and monitoring in the Chesapeake Bay Watershed. I'm Erin Chapman. I am on the grants team here at the EPA Chesapeake Bay Program Office, and my co-presenter is Dr. Kaylin Gutman. And so today we will be going over, we're going to do an overview of the funding opportunity. We'll talk about eligibility, application materials, evaluating the applications and resources, and then we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. And in the room with us also is Autumn Rose, and she'll be monitoring the chat. Okay, so here's a quick overview. We now call them NOFOs. They used to be RFAs. NOFO stands for Notice of Funding Opportunity. This is new this year, so we're all learning together. So the NOFO is currently available on the Region 3 Grants webpage. And we are accepting applications for it in grants.gov at the link on the presentation there. The application deadline is July 19th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. We anticipate awarding one cooperative agreement for the duration of 5 years. And the estimated start date for this funding opportunity is October 1, 2024. The funding available is $6.5 million over the course of 5 years, which according to this chart, and a lot of this information is pulled directly from the NOFO document. It's a PDF both on the Region 3 website and in grants.gov. Under the funding opportunity there, you can also access the PDF with all of this information. So we've broken out, Kaylin's going to go over the activity shortly, but an estimation of what per year that funding could look like, the totals for each year, and then for the full 5 years there. And we do require a cost share of 5% minimum, and I will go over that in more detail later as well. All right, Kaylin's going to give some background.
Thanks, Erin. Really appreciate the intro, and I'm going to be talking about the Chesapeake Bay program, especially for folks that might be new to our program. So, to start, the Chesapeake Bay program, which is abbreviated as CBP throughout this presentation, is a regional partnership devoted to restoring and protecting the Chesapeake Bay and its watershed, which are shown here to your right. The program and the broader partnership is made up of about 40 agencies and programs across the Bay watershed states, the District of Columbia. There are 19 federal agencies that are represented in our partnership. There are approximately 1,800 local governments represented through the Local Government Advisory Committee. There are more than 20 academic institutions represented through the Scientific and Technical Advisory Committee, and there are more than 60 non-governmental organizations, including businesses, nonprofits, and advocacy groups. So to dive in a little bit to the Chesapeake Bay program itself and our structure, that is shown here on this diagram. Starting with the top. So this first box is highlighting the Chesapeake Executive Council, which is made up of the signatories of the 2014 Chesapeake Bay Watershed Agreement, which includes the governors of Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, New York. West Virginia, I think, might be twice, so that is a mistake on my part. But the 6 watershed states, including Delaware as well, and the mayor of DC. the EPA administrator on behalf of the federal agencies, and the chair of the Chesapeake Bay Commission. Now, the Chesapeake Executive Council, they work directly with the principal staff committee. So generally, environmental secretaries and other members that work with the signatories. Next, we have highlighted the different advisory committees in the management board, which inform both the principal staff committee and the executive council. So a lot of the big decisions are made at the management board level, which are informed by the advisory committees, which then share that information with the higher levels of the program. And beneath the management board, we have a variety of goal teams and work groups that are related to each of those topics. So with the Chesapeake Bay program, our watershed agreement, we have actually 10 goals and 31 outcomes, which are divided among the different goal team groups. And not to forget, we have in pink here on the right, the scientific, technical assessment and reporting team, which does a lot of other work through the STAR work groups. So lots of parts to the Bay program structure. Those working, on this award through this agreement are going to be primarily working with the water quality complementation team, land use work group, the Chesapeake Bay Program Office data team, and land use work group, which are not represented on this graph, but will be talked about as we continue. So just to kind of start before we go into more of the details on this NOFO, some might be asking, why does the Chesapeake Bay program want to invest, and EPA want to invest in land use land cover data? So it's really important to remember that these type of data, this type of information is critical to informing, lots of what the Chesapeake Bay program is doing in terms of our models, how we track changes in the watershed. So it's having this information, having these data, but also having accurate information as a high resolution as possible is what is so valuable, informing the model, but also tracking changes that happen throughout the watershed. Land use land cover changes influence more than half of our 31 outcomes. So critically important to have this information. Things are changing all the time in our environment, and land use land cover data are some of the best ways we can do that. So in terms of the scope of work, the purpose of this NOFO is to provide the Chesapeake Bay program's non-federal partners with updated land use land cover data, enhanced river corridor data, landscape metrics, and communication products associated with these data. The activities outlined in this NOFO support multiple outcomes from the 2014 Chesapeake Bay Watershed Agreement. Programmatic direction for this work will be directed through the land use work group and the water quality goal implementation team, and does require coordination with the Bay Program Land Data team. Now, the Chesapeake Bay Program Office Data Center will also be involved in any data, code, technology, applications, and products that are developed under this agreement. In terms of the activities, there are 4 of them. Activity 1, which you'll see repeated, is high resolution land cover characterization and monitoring. Activity 2 is hypertemporal spectral indices. Activity 3 relates to high resolution land use characterization, monitoring, and best management practice, or BMP verification. Activity 4 covers stream corridor characterization. And you'll see this diagram that's on your right throughout the presentation, just showing the different levels of coordination required between various activities. So activities 1, 2, and 3 must be coordinated with one another, while activities 3 and 4 must be coordinated between those 2. So going into a little more detail about activity 1, the work required with this activity is to produce high spatial resolution land cover for the Chesapeake Bay region, which includes the 206 counties that are within and intersect the Chesapeake Bay watershed for a specific set of years. The map on your left, there's an outline of the Chesapeake Bay watershed shown in blue, and those 206 counties that intersect or are fully within the watershed are shown in yellow. This activity also includes opportunities for innovations in artificial intelligence and machine learning methods to improve the efficiency and accuracy of land cover data. And again, activity 1 must be closely coordinated with activities 2 and 3. The details of example outputs for each of the activities can be found in the NOFO document itself, but generally, what we're really looking for is developing 1 meter spatial resolution land cover data. We're looking for the documentation of land cover change from 21 to 22 time period into 25 and 26, and we want consistency between previous years. We also are looking for accuracy assessments. For activity 2, this is referring to the hypertemporal spectral indices, and we're looking for the recipient to create these for the years 1985 through 2028. And these indices represent change in landscape condition, including vegetation and surface moisture/water estimates. And we're looking for these to be produced at monthly, bi-monthly, seasonal, and annual intervals. And again, activity 2 must be closely coordinated with activities 1 and 3. More detail on example outputs for activity 2 can again be found in the NOFO, but we're looking for data sets that are going to be computed at these different time steps, at these different resolutions. And we're looking for, the computations, the algorithms for how to do this, how to detect change over time. And, part of that whole process is utilizing coding and workflows to be able to update these various indices. Activity 3 refers to the high resolution land use characterization, monitoring, and best management practice verification. So we are looking for high spatial resolution land use for the years 2025/2026, while ensuring consistent and accurate estimates of land use change since the 2013/2014 period. We also would love for the recipient to leverage machine learning to identify best management practice, presence, absence. And a critical part of this activity is providing public access and visualization of land use land cover data. And again, this activity must be closely coordinated with activities 1, 2, and 3, and along with working through the Chesapeake Bay Program land data team. Example outputs for activity 3, again, are in more detail in the NOFO, but we are looking for a 62 class, 1 meter spatial resolution land use land cover data set that's optimized and for a cloud format, and also coordinating with the Chesapeake Bay Program Data Center. We'd like to improve BMP opportunity mapping and verification using these data, assessing change, and also being able to compare bias in land change detection. Activity 4 refers, and this last activity, refers to stream corridor characterization. And this activity includes details on characterizing stream corridors to enhance the utility and application of hyper-resolution hydrography data. So in a sense, we're going to be getting high-resolution land use land cover data to be able to connect, that work to things that the Bay Program Partnership is interested in, related to water quality, living resources. We need to know what's happening with our streams, and mapping those streams is that first step. Other things to consider are having a participatory science component related to monitoring, reporting stream flow conditions at different times throughout the year. And again, activity 4 is really something that must be closely coordinated with activity 3 and the Chesapeake Bay Program land data team. Examples of outputs for activity 4 can be found in more detail in the NOFO, but generally we're looking for the recipient to assign, hydrologic attributes associated with each of these high resolution parts of the data set. We'd like looking at, integrating these data into the Chesapeake Bay Program next phase of our model and different outcomes. And a key piece of this is preparing and delivering communication products, and also the development of derivative communication products that help inform other outcomes as well. And you've probably seen these words a few different times earlier in this presentation, but the key piece of this NOFO are the plans for and the execution of coordination and communication. As a part of this NOFO, we are expecting that detailed action plans will be produced at the start of the grant period. There is a lot of coordination and communication with multiple Chesapeake Bay Program goal implementation teams, work groups, additional teams that are associated with the program, and especially the land data team. Programmatic direction will be through the land use work group and the water quality goal implementation team. And again, the Chesapeake Bay Program Office Data Center will be involved in data, code, technology development, applications, and products that are developed. And not to forget, the successful applicant will also be hosting webinars, training sessions, as well as promoting materials online. Again, really trying to stress the importance of communication with these data and this information. And, we anticipate potential end users, including state and local managers, especially those focused on flooding, hazard mitigation, planning, land use, urban planners, residential community leaders, state and local water agencies, emergency response agencies, et cetera. This is not an exhaustive list by any means, but we really want to make sure this super useful information gets in the right hands of people that are planning, decision makers, working towards bay restoration as well. So with that, I'm going to turn things back over to my colleague, Erin.
All right, thank you, Kaylin. So we're going to talk about eligibility really quickly. Eligible applicants include nonprofit organizations, state, tribal, and local governments, colleges and universities, and interstate agencies. Entities that are not eligible to apply are for-profit organizations, which include for-profit colleges, for-profit universities, trade schools, and for-profit hospitals. And on these next few slides, you will see a reference page in the NOFO that's helpful to find more detail on each of these subjects. With that, there are 9 threshold eligibility criteria that we will use to screen applications for further review. The first 3 here address submission requirements in grants.gov. Applications must be received in grants.gov on or before the deadline. Let's see. And then all applications, number 4, must be for projects linked to the strategic goal within the 2022-2026 EPA strategic plan. All projects, number 5, all project-related activities must directly support the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Number 6, applications must show how they will meet the 5% cost share requirement. 7, applications requesting funding for more than the maximum available, which is $6.5 million, will be rejected. And applications must not include any ineligible tasks or activities. Number 9, applications must address all 4, the 1 through 4 activities that Kaylin just went over. So all of those have to be addressed to be deemed eligible for further review. So next are applications. Yeah, what do you need to include in your application? What materials? There are several mandatory documents, including the application for federal assistance, which is standard form 424, the budget information for non-construction programs, which is SF 424A, and they're all linked on this page as well. EPA key contacts form 5700-54, EPA pre-award compliance review report form 4700, and there's a link for some tips for completing that form, a project narrative, and a budget narrative. And for each of those, the project narrative, we created in the NOFO in Appendix A that goes into very specific detail on what we're looking for. And I'll briefly go over that in a second. And then the budget narrative, also there's Appendix B in the NOFO that gives very detailed information on what we're looking for there. And then an optional attachment is the indirect cost rate agreement if it's applicable to your situation. Okay, for the project narrative, this does have a 15-page limit that includes section A and B that are listed here, resumes, CVs, and supporting materials. That page limit excludes those other mandatory documents that we saw in this one, the 1 through 6, I guess 1 through 4, and then number 6, those are excluded from the project narrative. So they do not count towards the 15-page limit. But in section A, we're asking just for the basic information of your organization, contact info, title, the funding request, your cost share amount and sources, or a description about your organization and any biographies. Section B, we're looking for a project overview, a discussion of how the objectives and requirements of each activity will be met. And also, we're asking you to go through to address the review criteria in narrative form. And the review criteria you can find in detail in section 5B in the NOFO. And we'll go over some of those, the major headings of that in a minute as well. For your budget narrative, this is where we'd like for you to include a breakdown of the proposed costs for the major budget categories: personnel, fringe, travel, equipment, supplies, contractual costs, construction, and other costs, and indirect costs. You must address the total estimated project funding that includes both the federal share and the cost share. To assist with calculating the 5% minimum required cost share, there's a formula we provided on page 25 of the NOFO, and I pasted it right here as well. And this calculation is if you're applying for the maximum funding amount of $6.5 million. If you're applying for less than that amount, the calculation will change a bit. But as you can see here, the $6.5 million is the funding request divided by 95%, gives the 6.8 total, and you take that, multiply it by 5%, and you get 342,105.26, which rounds upward. And that is a tip, or please round upward. Do not round down when applying this formula. 4.99% does not round up and would render your application ineligible. So please round up and use whole dollars. We say this later. You don't need to use cents when putting your actual amounts in there. So yeah, that's about cost share. And then the administrative cost cap, there is a cost cap of 10%. This is different from the indirect cost. The administrative cost cap is salaries and fringe benefits for work that supports administration of the grant. And there is an optional multi-year budget template and additional budget guidance on within the attachments of the Chesapeake Bay program grant guidance that is linked there. Okay, so for evaluate, after we get all the applications and we do the threshold eligibility and deem applications either eligible to move on or ineligible, for all those that are eligible, we will conduct a merit evaluation of each application. And these evaluations are performed by professionals with working knowledge of the technical and programmatic needs of the Bay Program Partnership. The teams will be assembled from the EPA and other CBP partner organizations. All reviewers will sign a conflict of interest statement, and the evaluation criteria that we will use to review applications will be for a total of 100 possible points. And a breakdown of that can be seen here for the criteria weighting. And there's a lot more detail on each of these within the NOFO pages 19 and 20. So for programmatic capability and approach, that gets a maximum of 34 points, past performance 6 points, feasibility 15 points, transferability of results and dissemination 5 points, innovation 10 points, environmental results tracking 15 points, and project budget 15 points. Just some basic resources, just to be aware of. You must have an active SAM registration to apply. If you do not have a SAM registration, please register now. It can take some time to get that done. If you already have an account on sam.gov, I encourage you to make sure it is active and hasn't been inactivated. So just verify that. And once your account is active, then you register in grants.gov and you will submit your application through grants.gov. A few tips: we ask that you start early, line up your partners that are committed to the work, double check your calculations, provide detailed descriptions of your proposed work, and clearly demonstrate the threshold and evaluation criteria in your project narrative. Here are some useful links. The top one is the Region 3 Grants webpage. That is where you can find more information on the NOFO. That is where we will post this webinar. PowerPoint presentation and the Q&A document lives there as well. And then when you're ready to apply in grants.gov, you can use the link that's there. It takes you straight to grants.gov, or it takes you straight to the funding opportunity within grants.gov. The Chesapeake Bay Program website, the 2014 Watershed Agreement, And then as Kaylin was mentioning, different goal implementation teams and work groups, I've put a couple here to take you straight to their web pages to get some more information. And that's the end of our presentation. Thank you very much. And now we will take questions if you have any. You can drop them in the chat. We are checking the mailbox, the resource account.
And any questions will get added to our running list of questions and answers, and will make their way to the Region 3 grants website.
Looks like we have a couple coming through in the chat
Great.
now, so I'm looking out for those.
Excellent.
Can we please get a copy of the presentation? So do you want to address where that'll be, Erin?
Yes, it will be. I'm going to go back to the web here. The Region 3 grants webpage, it will be posted there and available there. We'll have both the link to rewatch the webinar, and we will also have the PowerPoint presentation as a separate PDF link there as well.
And the links in the slides should be live in the posted presentation as well, to hopefully make it a little bit easier and more convenient. But great question.
I see a couple more people typing,
Yeah.
so we'll wait for those to come through.
Yeah, we budgeted a lot of time for this, so don't feel rushed. Or
Yep.
Yeah, we'll hang out with you.
All right, so it looks like there's a clarification question regarding activity 4. There is wording about crowdsourcing data for stream flow and hoping for more clarity on what goals behind this anticipated work are.
Sure, I can take a first go at that. And thanks for the question, Katie. There should be more detail listed in that activity in the NOFO, but kind of the higher level summary of that is, we recognize as a program the importance of participatory science and how we can do a better job of integrating those efforts and that work into monitoring and, opportunities to be able to bring participants in across the watershed into maybe some stream flow verification, obviously safe conditions out for weather, water levels, et cetera, but really trying to tie in to this land use, land cover change monitoring effort, having direct connections to participatory science. Not only can it help validate and verify the data, but also has those other intangible benefits as connecting folks out there with their region and watershed, and maybe even getting them more into the fold of the broader partnership. I hope that helps. Awesome. Thanks, Katie.
And if any questions come up later, if you think of them later, write to the here. This is our main resource account, the R3_CBPO_grants@epa.gov. We are checking that mailbox on a daily basis, and we will take all questions. And just all questions that are asked about this grant do get posted to a Q&A document so that all applicants across the board have access to the exact same information as others. So feel free to pose your questions to that mailbox if you think of something later.
And I think currently on the Region 3 grants page, the Q&A document I think has 2 questions and answers. So it will be it will grow quite a bit thanks to today, which is great. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I don't see anybody else writing in the chat. So I think we will let everybody go. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to receiving applications.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Take care. Bye.